अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। सर्वेभ्यो नमः, सर्वेषां कृते नमस्काराः. Today we are starting the 18th chapter and the final chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We have now completed 17 chapters. The 18th chapter, being the final chapter, is where Sri Bhagavan concludes the Bhagavad Gita. So, just like in any book or when you do your doctoral thesis, the last chapter, the conclusion chapter, essentially captures the key points that happened in the earlier part of the book or the thesis. Similarly, in the Bhagavad Gita, the 18th chapter captures the key points made by Sri Bhagavan earlier. So, it's also the longest chapter in the Bhagavad Gita. There are 78 shlokas in all. So today we will do the first 12 of them. We'll do the first 12 shlokas in which Sri Bhagavan goes back to Karma Yoga. You see, one of the first topics that was taught in the Gita, the very first topic that Sri Bhagavan introduced in the Gita is about Atma Jnana. In the second chapter, he talked about the nature of the self. He points out there that each of us is an Atma, Jivatma in the body. That is, we are eternal. He begins on a very positive note. How do we know ourself? Normally, when we think of ourself, we think of ourself as the body, this material body, and we think of our existence in terms of the existence of the body. And therefore, one of the goals that human beings pursue in life is how to prolong life, how to live as long as possible, right? On the one hand, the fact that we are going to die one day never comes to our mind. We try to push it aside. Even if that thought comes, we say that, okay, let's not worry about it now. When it happens, it will happen. And on the other hand, we try to see how long we can live and how we can extend our life by living a healthy lifestyle or by taking appropriate medicines or medical insurance. Many people believe that living close to a hospital or having medical insurance will ensure that they can live longer, whatever. So in that way, we think about ourselves in terms of this material body. But Sri Bhagavan points out, while it's not wrong to take care of the body, in fact, it's required, it's actually important for us to know that we are actually beyond the body. We have an existence well beyond the body. Our existence is eternal. It's only the body that's going to die. We are not going to die ever. Now, with that knowledge as the basis, Atma Jnanam is the basis for the rest of the Bhagavad Gita. He introduces Karma Yoga. In the second chapter, Karma Yoga is introduced, and then Karma Yoga is repeatedly, referred to in different ways. Different perspectives on Karma Yoga are offered from that point, from the 47th shloka of the second chapter till the end of the sixth chapter. The third, fourth, fifth, and sixth chapters all are based on Karma Yoga. And on top of that is Jnana, knowledge. By the proper practice of Karma Yoga, pure knowledge comes. So now, in the first 12 shlokas of the 18th chapter, Sri Bhagavan goes back to some of the points covered there. So it begins with Arjuna's question in the first shloka of the 18th chapter. So I will read that shloka and then we will move forward. So the first shloka of the 18th chapter is as follows. Arjuna uvacha sannyasasya mahabaho tattvamichhami veditum tyagasya cha hrishikesha prithak keshinishudana. Arjuna asks this question. He says, "O Mahabaho," he's addressing Krishna here with three different names. The first one is Mahabaho. Mahabaho, who means one whose arms are very strong, one who has got very powerful arms. The second word that he uses is Hrishikesha. Hrishikesha means one who's the controller or the master. Rishikanam Ishaha, the master of the senses. Rishik means the senses or the mind. The mind is considered the sixth sense. So, the one who is the master, the controller of the mind and the senses, particularly of those who have taken refuge in him, he controls the mind and the senses. And the third is Keshi Nishudana. Keshi means, Keshi refers to a particular asura who attacked Krishna and the Gopas in Vraja, when Krishna's you know Balya Leela or Kaumara Leela was going on in Vraja. So one of the asuras who comes is Keshi, and he is killed by Krishna and Balaram. So Keshi Nishodhana refers to one who killed Keshi. So in with three different names, Arjuna is addressing Krishna. Why is that? He's asking a doubt. He wants Krishna to destroy that doubt. So keeping that in mind, he's asking this. He says, "Sannyasasya mahabaho tattvamichhami veditum tyagasya cha hrishikesha." There are two terms which are not clear to me. Means they seem to be similar, and I'm not able to know exactly what the difference between them is. Please explain to me. So earlier, these terms have come, sannyasa and tyaga. So referred to it multiple times in the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth chapters. So still Arjuna seems to have not understood what Sri Bhagavan intended to say by using those terms. So now he wants to again clarify. So he says, please explain to me what is the difference between these terms, sannyasa and tyaga. They sound similar. So the word sannyasa in Sanskrit expands as sati nyasaha. Sati means in sat. The word sat, like we learnt in the 17th chapter, the word Sat is one of the labels used to address Bhagavan himself, is one of the terms used to refer to him. It can also be used to refer to any good work which is prescribed in the Veda, in the Shastra. Any good activity which is prescribed is called Sat Karma. Similarly, a saintly person is called a Sat Purusha. A good quality in somebody is called a Sadguna. Right? The word Sat is used as an adjective or as a prefix for anything that's good, a good person, a good quality, Bhagavan himself, or a good intention. Everything is Sat. The word Sat essentially means that which is eternal, which is substantial, which doesn't perish, and so on. So, Sati Nyasaha. Nyasaha means placing something in Sat. Okay, so that is called Sannyasa, or placing oneself in Sat. If I say that so and so has taken sannyas, that means he has placed his consciousness in that Sat. So he has taken sannyas. So that's the meaning in which sannyas word is used. So then there's another word, tyaga. Tyaga is very easy to understand. Tyaga simply means giving up something, abandoning something. Usko tyag diya. Hindi we say that uska tyag kar diya, right? So tyag means giving up something, letting it go, leaving something aside. Tyag diya. So is there a connection between these two things, sannyasa and tyaga? That is the question that Arjuna is asking. And now let's see what Sri Bhagavan responds in the next 11 shlokas. His response is given. So in the second shloka, Sri Bhagavan uvacha kamyanam karmanam nyasam sannyasam kavayo viduhu सर्वकर्मफलत्यागं प्राहुस्त्यागं विचक्षणाः श्रीभगवानुवाच काम्यानां कर्मणां न्यासं सन्न्यासं कवयो विदुः सर्वकर्मफलत्यागं प्राहुस्त्यागं विचक्षणाः. So here he gives a distinction between them. He says kamyanam karmanam nyasam, kamyanam karmanam. So normally, you see, in the varnashrama system, in the Vedic knowledge system, duties or activities are prescribed for all human beings. Okay, now there are broadly two types of human beings in Manushya Loka. One is called Varniyaha, those who belong to one of the Varnas, and the others are Avarniyaha, those who don't have any Varna, they are outside the Varna system. Those who are in the Varna system are again divided into four, Chaturvarnaha. So Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And the Veda and the Smritis and so on, all the texts based on the Veda, including Mahabharata, Ramayana, the Puranas, they all describe different types of duties or responsibilities that each of these four Varnas, the people of these four Varnas, should perform. They are called prescribed. And here in English, we say prescribed activities or mandated activities. So these are things which people of those Varnas ought to perform. Okay, it is very similar. You can say the Varna system today people translate it as the caste system. It is as if there's something deplorable about it, but actually it is analogous to what we have today. You see, for example, today there are teachers, there are philosophers, teachers whose job is to create knowledge and pass on that knowledge to others. Okay, so they are the analogous creatures of the Brahmanas of the Vedic system. Similarly, there are administrators, people who are good at administration, governance, okay, politicians or administrators in companies, administrators of the land. So many ways in which administration is essential for human society, and it's their responsibility. So we have a whole class of people doing that today, and they correspond to the Kshatriyas. Of course, we also have the military, and those days the Kshatriya class included the people who are in the military. Of course, military work was not only the responsibility of Kshatriyas, the other people in the other Varnas also joined them when there was a war. Okay, now the third category, Vaishyas, today we see business community. That fact, that's the most prominent community today. It was a very prominent community in the Vedic system too. So the Vaishyas, and then there are people who assist all of them. Okay, who don't do any of them themselves, but who play the assistant role. Okay, so many people who are not in any of these classes but play an assisting role. We see that, and they are the Shudras. So now in the Vedic system, work is very well defined. Just like today, we have something called job definition, job profile, job description. Right? In the same way, JD is present in the Veda. The job description is given, and people are supposed to do that. If you do that, everybody does their job, then society remains stable and peaceful. Right? Okay. Now here, broadly speaking, in the Vedic system, two types of activities are prescribed. One is called kamya karma. Kamya, kama means that which pertains to kama or desire, material desire, the desire for enjoyment, sense based enjoyment. Okay, that is called kamya karma. And the second is nitya naimittika karma. So, nitya naimittika karma, there are two words there, nitya and naimittika. Nitya karma means that which is to be done every day. Okay, now by default, we all do nitya karma every day, like, for example, we take bath or we go to the bathroom, we eat food. Okay, those things the Veda doesn't have to tell us. No book has to tell us that these things have to be done. They are automatic. And intuitively, even if nobody tells, we will do them. Okay, then there are other activities like our job, our work activities. Similarly, in those days, people had well defined, a Brahmana has to do these things every day. For example, in a Brahmana, a Grihastha Brahmana, who's a Grihastha, he has to do the Agnihotra Yajna. There's something called the Agnihotra Yajna. The Agnihotra Yajna is a mandatory thing that every Brahmana Grihastha has to do. Okay, so this is called a Nitya Karma. Then there is Naimittika Karma. Naimittika Karma means activities which are meant to be done on certain occasions. Like, for example, Shraddha. So, Shraddha is not done every day. Shraddha is done when somebody, for example, passes away, or uh, 1 year has passed. Their tithi comes again after 1 year, and it comes every year. So, on the tithi of that person, the tithi on which that person passed, Shraddha is done. Shraddha Karma is done. Similarly, Tarpana is done on every Amavasya. These are called Naimittika Karma. So Nitya Karma, Naimittika Karma, Nitya Naimittika Karma, these are done not to fulfill sensual desires. They are done as a matter of duty. They have to be done. Whether you have a sensual desire or not, that is different. You have to do these duties. If you don't do the duties, then you are actually contributing to some harm in society. You're bringing some instability because of not doing that work. Just like in an organization today, if a person doesn't do what they are supposed to do, it disturbs the organization's flow of work, right? As simple as that. So doing nitya naimittika karma is a given, and a person is supposed to do those activities. Kamya karma is not a given. A person need not do kamya karma. It's only if they are unable to tolerate the desire, if the desire is so strong. For example, somebody wants to, let's say someone is not finding a partner, okay, for a long time, and they very badly want to have a partner in life. Okay, no, nothing wrong with that. It's not ethical to want to have a partner. It's perfectly ethical, but that's considered a karma. You want to have a partner. Sometimes, of course, in the Vedic system, we also see this, that people could have, or men could have multiple wives. Okay, it was permitted to have multiple wives, and if a person, for example, has one wife and he wants one more, and he's not able to find a suitable wife which matches his expectations, then he does some yajna or some puja or worship, so that by the arrangement of the higher, the system, the universal powers will grant him that kind of a person, that kind of a person is found. Okay, or in the even longer term, somebody wants to go to Swarga in their next life. They want to take birth in Swarga. Okay, so obviously you can't go to Swarga in this body. We already discussed that. So after you complete this lifetime, this body is gone, and then you take birth in Swarga. That's a desire that people had. Just like today, people have a desire: I want to go to Japan, I want to migrate to Germany, I want to migrate to Canada, I want to migrate to the US. So I want to migrate to Swarga. This kind of desire was a very common desire in human society in the Vedic system. So people would perform a yaga for that. Swarga kamo yajeta. There's an instruction in the Veda. Similarly, putra kamo yajeta. Somebody wants a son, doesn't have a son, he only has daughters. Okay, because daughters have certain responsibilities, sons also have certain responsibilities. Without a son, certain kinds of benefits cannot be got. So I want to have a son. So if somebody wants a son, then there is a putra kameshti yaga. So they do that particular yaga to get a son, and we see Dasharatha doing that, right? Of course, Dasharatha does what is called a Ashwamedha yaga for getting a son. Now, these are called kamya karma, when a particular activity is not part of nitya naimittika karma but done for attaining certain specific benefits. And kamya karma, there is a huge section, many parts of the Veda actually is called karma kanda. They prescribe different types of kamya karma so that people can fulfill their material desires without harming others, in alignment with dharma. In the alignment of dharma, kamya karma or kama can be fulfilled. Okay. So kamya karma. Now here Sri Bhagavan is saying kamyanam karmanam nyasam sannyasam kavayo viduhu. So sannyasa means giving up the kamya karma, abandoning means leaving the kamya karma, not doing kamya karma anymore, only doing nitya naimittika karma. Then he says sarva karma phalatyagam prahustyagam vichakshanaha. Then he says, Tyaga refers to giving up the craving for the fruits of one's activities. So normally, when we do any activity, it may the motivation for doing the activity comes to us is by doing that I will get something in return for myself. The the profit, the gain that I get from doing something. Okay. For example, the Shastra says we must do dana. Okay, when you do nitya naimittika karma, there is also the aspect of charity, dana. We discussed about dana when we talked when we went through the 17th chapter. One of the key activities of a person is dana, giving in charity. Right now, if somebody does dana, thinking that by doing dana I will get so much punya. Okay, by doing dana, punya will come to me, and because of that punya, I'll become rich. A lot of money will come to me. I'll become famous. I'll get more popularity in society. These kind of thoughts inspire somebody to do dana. So here, Sri Bhagavan says, giving up that inspiration, not giving up the activity, doing the dana without that inspiration. Instead, doing the activity, thinking about the activity as one's responsibility. This is called tyaga. This is called anasakti, or detachment from the fruit of the activity. Okay, detachment is of two types: detachment to the activity itself, not being attached to the work itself, instead doing the work without attachment. And second is detachment from the fruit of the activity, or the motivation for the activity does not come from that particular fruit which one can possibly get, but instead it comes from something higher. Okay, we'll talk about more of that. So here he is defining tyaga as doing the activity without craving for the fruit of the activity, being detached from the fruit of the activity, but doing the activity as a matter of responsibility, duty. That is called tyaga. So once again, sannyasa refers to giving up all kamya karma, only doing nitya naimittika karma, and tyaga refers to giving up the fruits or the craving for the fruits of one's activity. So what happens when the fruits actually come? The fruits will anyway come, because if you do some activity, the result of the activity will come. So what happens when that is done? We will come to that question too. Okay, now I go on further. We'll go to the third shloka of this 18th chapter. So here, Sri Bhagavan presents in the third and the fourth shlokas, he presents the views of other people on this. There are so many views in society, so many philosophers giving their own views. He says, Tyajyam doshavadityeke karma prahurmanishinaha yajnadana tapah karma natyajyam iti chapare. Tyajyam doshavat iti eke means one class of people or some people, some intelligent, learned people who are manishis, manishinaha, he says. Manishinaha means manishi. The plural of manishi is manishinaha. Manishi means a thinker, an intelligent person, a learned person, a wise person, a philosopher. Okay, so there are some intelligent, learned people who say that all activity is fault ridden, because while doing activity, we may end up killing animals. We kill insects, for example, unknowingly we kill insects. Or sometimes in some of the Vedic yajnas, we may require to sacrifice an animal, like in Ashwamedha yaga, the horse is sacrificed. So similarly, in some other activities, some insects get killed, or something happens by which there is some element of apparently adharma happening there. Some himsa happens. So some philosophers say that all activity must be given up. Nothing should be done. A person who is really learned only sits and meditates. He does not do anything else. He only does dhyan on himself, or dhyan on Bhagavan, on the ultimate reality. No activity should be done. So tyajyam doshavat iti eke manishinah karma prahuhu. They describe work should be all given up. Then he says, apare Yajnadana tapak karma na tyajyam. There are others who say that, oh, no, 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 we shouldn't do that. We should only give up some activities, but activities such as worship, which are prescribed in the Veda, yajna, dana, charity, and austerity, tapa, they should not be given up. They are very important. Regardless of what happens, these should not be given up. Other activities can be given up. Then he says, Nishchayam shunu me tatra tyage bharata sattama त्यागे त्यागो हि पुरुषव्याघ्र त्रिविधः सम्प्रकीर्तितः निश्चयं शृणु मे तत्र त्यागे भरतसत्तम त्यागो हि पुरुषव्याघ्र त्रिविधः सम्प्रकीर्तितः. So here Sri Bhagavan is addressing Arjuna with the word Bharata Sattama. He reminds him that you actually are the best among the descendants of Bharata. So Pandavas and the Kauravas, everybody, they are descendants of the king Bharata, the son of Dushyanta and Shakuntala, and the grandson of sage Vishwamitra. So he's a great king, great personality, after whom today our country is also called Bharata, right? Not only today, it's been called Bharata all the time, and today we are reviving that word. So he says, you are actually a great noble personality. So for you to understand, this is not difficult. You should be able to understand. Please hear me carefully, and I'm giving you my opinion. So there are different philosophers who say different things, but please hear what I have to say. This is my opinion with regard to Tyaga. He says, uh, you should understand that the word Tyaga is actually used to refer to three types of giving up. Literally, Tyaga means giving up something. Now, I initially told you it's about giving up the activity, giving up the attachment to the fruits or the craving for the fruit of the activity. But now let me make it more clear. There are actually three types of Tyaga. Please listen to me. यज्ञदानतपः कर्म न त्याज्यं कार्यमेव तत् यज्ञोदानं तपश्चैव पावनानि मनीषिणाम्. So before I tell you what those three types are, I would first like to tell you that these three things, which some philosophers already have said, yajna, dana, and tapa, and which I described to you more elaborately in the 17th chapter too, these three should not be given up. Satvika yajna, satvika dana, satvika tapas, which I described in the 17th chapter, they must always be done. They should certainly be done, because doing them actually purifies the person. There is chitta shuddhi, there is atma shuddhi, and therefore they should never be given up. एतान्यपि तु कर्माणि सङ्गं त्यक्त्वा फलानि च कर्तव्यानीति मे पार्थ निश्चितं मतमुत्तमम्. So this is what Tyaga is. He says, all this must be done, but phalani tyaktva, the craving for the fruits must be given up. He says, kartavyani, they should be done. This is kartavyata, they should always be done. And this is my highest ascertained opinion. Nishchitam matam uttamam. Uttamam matam means the highest opinion, and it is my ascertain. Nishchitam means there is no doubt in this. I have no doubt, unambiguous. I'm telling you that these three should be done at any cost. These three should never be given up. So, in whatever way, now in the Veda, these are prescribed in a particular way, in a sattvic way. Yajna is prescribed. How yajna should be done? By default, the word yajna means with the fire in front, with Agni in the front. Agni is the medium through which yajna happens. So, Homakunda is created, and then offerings are made into the Agni for some deity, for reaching some deity. Now, in the Kali Yuga, that form of yajna to be done strictly in the way the Veda says is very challenging for most people. Some people may be able to do it, but most people cannot do it. And therefore, in the Kali Yuga, japa yajna is prescribed. It says yajnanam japa yajñosmi, the japa of the names of Sri Bhagavan. So that is prescribed, and Harinama Sankirtanam is the more elaborate form of that yajna. It's called Sankirtana yajna. So Sankirtana Yajna is possible not only for the Brahmanas but for anybody, even for the Avarniyas, people who don't belong to any of these four categories into a Varnashrama system. They also can do Japa Yajna, Sankirtana Yajna, and that is prescribed. So Yajna, that Yajna should be done, it should not be given up. Similarly, Dana, giving in charity, parting with something that's of value to us, to a qualified, eligible person, is Dana, and that's something that should be a part of our life. Similarly, Tapasya, or willingly taking up austerity. Tapasya is not being forced into austerity by somebody, but willingly saying, I will do it because it will help me to overcome my negative qualities and become uh, self disciplined, self controlled, and thereby eligible to receive pure bhakti, pure jnana. So, this is. This is the meaning of tapasya. Tapasya is done so that it becomes possible. It paves the way for us to get spiritual knowledge. So these things should not be given up in whatever way we do them. We should do them, and we should do them in the sattvic way. Now, he elaborates a little bit more. He says, Niyatasya tu sannyasah karmano nopapadyate mohat tasya parityagastamasa parikirtitah. So he will now describe the three of them. He said there are three types of tyaga. First one is tamasa tyaga. He says, Niyatasya karmanah sannyasah na upapadyate. Karmanah of activities. Niyatasya, nitya naimittika karmanah. Nitya naimittika is referred to here. Niyata. Niyata means that which is prescribed. Nitya naimittika karma, nitya karma. Sannyasah means giving it up. Only kamya karma should be given up. Activities in pursuit of sensual gratification. But for niyata karma, nitya karma, the sannyasa is not prescribed. And this is something that he says again and again in the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth chapters. Prescribed duty should never be given up. There's no concept of retirement. Till the end of life, one should keep doing to the best of one's ability. Na upapadyate means it's not appropriate or not suitable, it's not advised. So he says, Mohat tasya parityagah tamasah parikirtitah. But still, some people, because they don't know this, they don't know why they should do it. Okay, they say that, okay, now I have become sufficiently satisfied in life. I don't need to do this anymore. Or I have become very senior. Now others should do. I won't do this anymore. I won't do this responsibility. Okay. Of course, one may not do certain responsibilities, but as one becomes older by age, one may need to devote oneself to other responsibilities, other types of activities. Okay. So for every age, there may be a suitable responsibility for that age. So one should do that. So mohat tasya parityagaha. Now you see how Bhagavad Gita begins. It begins with Arjuna saying that I don't want to fight this war. Right? Arjuna wants to give up his duty as a Kshatriya, and he says, I'm willing to do sannyas, I'm willing to go beg. I'll live as a beggar instead of killing my relatives. I don't want to fight this war because he doesn't see the larger picture. He says, I will live as a beggar, I'll just live, I don't want anything in life. I'll depend on my alms. Whatever alms people give me, I'll feed myself and I'll live under a tree or something. That's enough for me. So here Sri Bhagavan condemns that. He says that thinking, mohat, means it comes from delusion. Your delusion means ignorance of what karma is, what is meant by karma, activity, responsibility, why it should be done, what is its benefit, why it should not be avoided. Not knowing that is called moha, delusion, confusion. So out of confusion, somebody may talk like that, like the way Arjuna spoke, and say, I'll just go and be a sannyas. I'll not do anything. If people give me two chapatis, I'll have two chapatis. If people give me a big feast, sometimes in a temple there's a big feast, I'll go and have that. If one day somebody gives me nothing, I will just take that and I'll be peaceful. So this kind of life is not prescribed. He says abstaining from these activities out of ignorance is called tamasatyaga, and he condemns that. So he begins with that and says that is definitely not to be done. Then he says दुःखमित्येव यत्कर्म कायक्लेशभयात् त्यजेत् सकृत्वा राजसं त्यागं नैव त्यागफलं लभेत्. Rajasatyaga. Okay, somebody does not do tamasatyaga, but somebody becomes very selective in their responsibilities. He says that, okay, this kind of work is too painful. For example, the Shastra says one should get up in the morning in the Brahma Muhurta or even before Brahma Muhurta, and one should take bath. In those days, taking bath meant going to a nearby river or going to a pond or going to a well. Okay, people took bath from a well or a river or a pond. Most people did that. There was no bathroom. Of course, bathrooms were there, but there were no taps with flowing water. There were private areas where people could, remove most of their clothes and then pour water on themselves. But there were no bathrooms of the modern type where water flowed from taps or showers, poured water, or bathtubs where one could just go and plunge oneself. The bathtub was the lake or the river. So people would have to go there. So now imagine it's the month of January, okay, the month of Magha, and one has to go to the river and take bath because one has to then come back and do one's morning meditation, the puja, meditation, dhyan on Bhagavan has to be done. So one has to first take bath. Without taking bath and wearing fresh clothes, you cannot do meditation. No, it's too painful. Let me do meditation. I'll just wash my face with the water in the kitchen. That's enough. And I can change my clothes. That's not a problem. Let me do meditation. And when it comes to afternoon, when the sun is fully up, and then slowly I'll remove my clothes, go to the river, and then just pour a little bit of water on myself and come back. That's enough for me. So that's called dukkha yat karma kaya klesha bhayat tyajet. Because it gives so much agony to the body, it's causing so much discomfort, right? I give it up. And I do only those activities which are comfortable for me. I give you one example. Now you can think of many other examples where our daily responsibilities, okay, they give us discomfort. They are not very pleasing all the time. Okay, and this is not only for the karma prescribed in the Veda, but even for our modern activities. What we do today in our job. Let's say I'm a PhD student. I have to study papers. I have to do data entry. I have to collect data. I have to talk to people. So many different activities are involved in doing a PhD or an MBA or doing a job in a company. You have to interact with people. You have to follow some things. You have to follow certain protocols. Some of them are very pleasing to do. Some of them are not so pleasing to do. Right. So giving up things which are not pleasing to do and doing only those things, or aligning your work only to those things which are pleasing to do, that is called Rajasatyaga, giving up activities which are not pleasing. And if one does that kind of tyaga and thinks that is tyaga, then they don't get the intended fruit. Sakritva Rajasam Tyagam, Naiva Tyaga Phalam Labet. He says such a person does not get the intended fruit of the tyaga. What is the intended fruit of the tyaga? That is jnana, pure self knowledge, Atma Jnana, the realization of knowledge which gives happiness, which gives pure Atma Sukha, Atma Sukha, Atmananda, the happiness of the self. So, this happiness will not come to such a person. It will come only to the person who does the activities as they are meant to be done. So, then he goes to what is Sattvika Tyaga. He says, Karyamityeva yat karma niyatam kriyate arjuna sangam tyaktva phalam chaiva satyaga satviko matah. So you see how many times he repeats the same point. He says, now the last option for you is to only do this, where you do all your activity, whatever has to be done, you do it. Of course, whatever need not be done by you, don't do it, avoid it. In fact, today that's one important lesson for us too, that you see, in a given day, we actually do not only what we are supposed to do, but we do a lot of things which we don't have to do and we are not supposed to do sometimes. Okay, we indulge in activities we are not supposed to do, and we indulge in activities that we don't need to do. Right? Even if we don't say it's not supposed to do, but we don't need to do. we waste our time. Okay, and it's not very difficult to identify such activities. In fact, if we sit quietly and contemplate for some time and look at the kind of activities we do, easily find out at least some percentage of time goes into those activities, and those activities not only take up our time, uh, they take up our energy too, particularly mental energy. Mental energy is something that ought to be conserved. Okay, we may have a lot of physical energy, that may not be a problem, but the mind is something that we should take care with much more caution than our physical body too, the body, as well, because actually the mind is the one through which we approach the self. The mind is the one which actually gives us happiness. It's the seat of happiness. Happiness is experienced in our consciousness, which is seen in the mind, which is the it is the lens. The mind is the lens through which we feel our consciousness. Therefore, keeping the mind always calm, unstressed, focused on certain activities. Keeping the mind in control, keeping the mind peaceful is extremely important. Now, these unnecessary activities which we do take away a portion of that peace. They unnecessarily stress us. And one of the reasons for stress is these unnecessary activities which eat up our time. So we don't have to do them. The point is, we should focus on those prescribed activities, which may be unpleasant sometimes, which may be pleasant also. Regardless of pleasant or unpleasant, we must do them. But we must do them sangam tyaktva phalam chaiva. Giving up sangha, two things he says. Give up sangam. Sangha means attachment. Attachment to the activity. Like I just pointed out, attachment to activities which are pleasing to us. You want to do certain activities which you like to do, where it gives you gratification mentally, sensually, whatever. But you don't want to do certain activities. So that is attachment to certain activities. I'm unwilling to give up those activities, and I'm unwilling to do those which I'm not very comfortable with. So that kind of thinking, sangam tyaktva, phalam chayeva, which we have already said, is giving up the craving for the fruit of the activity. So giving up two types of things. This is the tyaga that I want you to do. This is called sattvika tyaga. Sattvika tyaga means giving up attachment to the activity itself and giving up attachment or the craving for the fruit of the activity, and doing activity as a matter of responsibility. Right? Now we'll again come back to the question of what then inspires a person. If you just think of work as responsibility, are you a machine? Are you a robot? This question, this doubt comes. We'll come back to it. So he elaborates again on Sattvika Tyaga. He says, Nadveshtya kushalam karma kushalena nushajjate tyagi sattva samavishto medhavi chinna samshayah. So he says, such a person who does Sattvika Tyaga is medhavi, is intelligent. He is chinna samshayaha. His samshaya doubts on what is work, what is not work, what is duty, what happens when I do my duty properly without attachment. So all these doubts in the mind are cleared. Chinna. Chinna means destroyed. Such a person, na dveshti akushalam karma, does not despise work which is unpleasant. Kushale nanu shajjate, does not become attached to work which is pleasant. He is tyagi sattva samavishtaha. He is situated in sattva. He is completely, his mind is in sattva guna. So sattva guna is dominant in his consciousness. Sattva guna influences him dominantly, and such a person is what I want. Such a person is what I want you to become. Tyagi sattva samavishtaha. Nahi dehabhrita shakyam tyaktum karmanyasheshatah yastu karmapalatyagi satyagi ityabhidhiyate. So this is a repetition of a point he has made in the third chapter when he introduces karma yoga. There in the third chapter, he points out there. He says that uh, न हि कश्चित् क्षणमपि जातु तिष्ठत्य कर्मकृत् कार्यते ह्यवशः कर्म सर्वः प्रकृतिजैर्गुणैः. So this shloka here in the 18th chapter resonates with the shloka that I just read from the third chapter, the fifth shloka of the third chapter, 3.5. He says, for not even for a moment can anyone sit without doing work. Okay, very, very profound statement, very profound statement. Not even for a moment. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi. Not even for one moment can someone sit without doing anything. Why? Because he says, Prakriti jaihi gunaihi. This point will be repeated again in the 18th chapter later. There is something called Prakriti, material nature, material energy, Bhagavan Shakti, that is surrounding us. We all exist in Prakriti. And this Prakriti is run with three gunas, the three mechanisms or three ropes of Prakriti which bind all the living beings. Sattva guna, Rajo guna, Tama guna. And these three gunas are the ones which actually execute all the activities. In just a few more shlokas, Sri Bhagavan will talk about the five factors of action, five factors which drive action. So we will discuss that in the next class. But there, one of them is this the gunas of Prakriti, how they control all the activities that we do. All the activities, they are the mechanisms through which these activities happen. And so he's saying in the third chapter that even for a moment, a person cannot sit or cannot exist without doing any activity. Now, somebody may challenge that by saying, what do you mean? Even you just now told me that I should do meditation for 2 hours in the morning. And when I do meditation, am I not doing anything? Am I, am I, sitting quietly? Am I doing that? Isn't that being without any activity? What do you mean I cannot be for a moment without doing anything? So the answer is simple that obviously when you're doing meditation, you are doing something, and that is called meditation. You're actually using your mind to focus on something. That is not saying not doing anything. You may not be doing anything with your hands and legs, but you're doing something with your mind. Your mind is active, and you are very much active. And your activity there is an activity meant to uplift your consciousness. So you're very active in meditation too. It's only your body, your other senses are not active. Your mind is active. Of course, if you're doing japa yajna, if you're doing japa, then your sense of hearing is also active. You're hearing, you're uttering, you're chanting, you're hearing. If you're chanting loudly, then your mouth and your tongue and your larynx, all those senses are also active. So in many ways, meditation, even though you're not moving around, is actually action, right? So the person who says, I want to meditate, I've become a jnani, I've become a sage, I've become a sannyasi, like Arjuna is saying, I don't want to fight, I'll go and meditate. I don't want to do any activity. He says, it's not possible. You have to do activity. And when you do activity, in the third chapter, he elaborates and later on emphasizes, re-emphasizes again and again in the fourth, fifth, and sixth chapters that there is a reaction for that. There is a outcome. Any action, whether it's meditation or it is something else done physically, there is always an outcome for an activity. And in the Indian knowledge system, there are only two outcomes broadly. One is called punya, or is called papa. Punya means action which is outcome which is pleasing, which creates a pleasing experience in the future. An outcome which creates a pleasing experience for oneself in the future is called punya. An outcome which creates an unpleasing or displeasing or a miserable outcome for somebody in the future is called papa karma. So there are only two outcomes possible by normal action, right? So even if you do nothing with your hands and legs but just sit somewhere and do meditation, then you will incur one of these two, depending on what you're doing. And if you give up your prescribed duty untimely, without doing it properly, without a proper qualification, if you give it up and just go and sit and meditate, then you will only get papa karma. You will not get punya. You will only get papa karma. And therefore, he re-emphasizes that point. He says, Nahi dehabhrita shakyam tyaktum karmanyasheshataha. It's not possible for someone to give up activities comprehensively, completely give up all activity. Because even if you give up activities pertaining to your hands and legs, your mind will be active. Of course, in the third chapter, he goes on to point out that simply by saying I'll sit and meditate doesn't mean you will do meditation also properly. Even meditation you will not be able to do properly because he says, Karmendriyani sanyamya ya aste manasa smaran indriyarthan vimudhatma mityacharaha sa uchyate. This is the sixth shloka. So immediately after saying that it's not possible to completely give up all activity, everybody always does something. So even a person who's sitting and meditating, he may think he is meditating, but in all likelihood, he may be only um, thinking of some sense pleasures. He may be contemplating on when will I get my food, when will I get this pleasure, when will I get some respect. Okay, somebody goes and sits. You'll see a lot of people like that today too. Of course, there are very genuine sannyasis today, but even apart from those genuine sannyasis, there are false sannyasis. There are fraud sannyasis who just want public attention. So they wear the garb of a sannyasi, and they grow a beard or they grow matted hair, and then they go sit somewhere. Okay, and then they will appear. They'll appear make themselves up. Manifest. They manifest themselves in public events and gather attention. And that's what they want. That's why they have become sannyasi. They're not because they want to really meditate on God all the time. When they sit for meditation too, they are thinking, when will the next thing come? When will the next attractive thing come? Right? So, and some of them also eventually you see come in the media for all the wrong reasons. Right? We all know that very well. So there's no need for me to reiterate. And that's exactly what Sri Bhagavan points out in the sixth shloka of the third chapter. He says such a person is called a mithyachari. Mithyachari. Mithyachar means false activity or activity, not sadachar. The opposite of sadachar is mithyachar, activity which is asat, which is not something to be done. So now in the 18th chapter, he is now reiterating that point in the 11th shloka. He says, Yastu karma phala tyagi satyagi iti abhidiyate. So coming back to the same point, instead of giving up the activity itself, do the activity but give up the craving for the fruit of the activity. And then in the 12th shloka for today, he says, Anishtam ishtam mishram cha trividam karmana phalam bhavatyatyaginam pretya natu sannyasinam kvachit. So now he comes back to the word sannyasa here after describing what is meant by tyaga and saying that sattvika tyaga is the tyaga that I want you to do, making it very clear. Now he comes back and reconnects it to the word sannyasa. We'll see what he says. He says that normally for all people, three types of fruit come, especially when you're doing kamya karma or you're doing your nitya naimittika karma. Three types of fruits can come. One is ishtam phalam. Ishtam means punya phalam, that which is going to create a desirable. Ishtam means desirable, which creates a desirable, a pleasing outcome in the future. Ishtam phalam. So one example of that is going to Swarga Loka. By doing certain types of kamya karma or doing certain types of punya, one gets birth in Swarga in the future. The second is Anishtam Phalam, Papa Karma. One example of that is one goes to Naraka, hellish existence. Naraka means hellish existence, Swarga means heavenly existence. So then Mishram Phalam. Mishram Phalam means mixed, a combination of both Punya and Papa, and that is called Manushya Janma. In Manushya Janma, in between the two, one experiences both Punya and Papa together in whatever proportion according to one's past karma. Right? Some people experience lot of Punya in that given birth, and only some Papa. Their Papa may come in the future, but some people the opposite. They suffer a lot in the life. All the Papa is getting fructified. This very little Punya comes to them. They may get some meal here and there, but all the while they are suffering. So that's Manushya Janma. He says, normally all our karma which we do lives this. But one who does Sattvika Tyaga, one who does actually Sattvika Tyaga, does not get any of these. Tyaga means giving up the craving for the fruit. So when one does all activity without any craving for the fruit of the activity purely as a sense of responsibility, then one does not get any of these three fruits. So what does one get then? One gets jnana, which is the greatest fruit, which is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. Purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to say that we are actually beyond this mundane happiness or misery. Not only misery, but happiness as well. We are beyond mundane happiness and we are actually eligible for genuine happiness, Atma Sukha. So one gets that. By doing Sattvika Tyaga, one actually goes towards Atma Sukha. One goes towards Atma Jnana, and this is the basis for bhakti as well. In Bhakti Yoga too, Sattvika Tyaga happens. One does all of one's responsibilities and one experiences the Ananda, the pure happiness of bhakti, the pure happiness of bhakti, which is superior to even the pure happiness of Jnana, Atma Sukha. So that is the goal of the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is educating us, making us aware that such a happiness exists. It's not the happiness of sensual enjoyment that we should be craving for. So it gives us a new standard for happiness. It asks us to redefine what we consider to be happiness, gives us a new benchmark for happiness, and asks us to pursue that. And that is Sattvika Tyaga. So now the question of if somebody is completely detached from the fruit of the activity, somebody has no craving for the fruit of the activity, then how will one actually do it? What will actually inspire one to do the activity? That is answered here by saying the inspiration that by doing my activity without any attachment to the fruit, without craving for the fruit, I become eligible for the pure happiness within the self. That inspiration drives one to do karma yoga or bhakti yoga. So this is the message that Sri Bhagavan is communicating. And in the 18th chapter from now onwards, he will go into more details pertaining to work. And later on, towards the end of the 18th chapter, he will come to bhakti. For a majority of the 18th chapter, karma yoga and jnana yoga are touched upon. But in the conclusion of the 18th chapter, he points out that bhakti is what I really wanted to do. Bhakti is superior to both karma yoga and jnana yoga, and bhakti also happens to be the yuga dharma of the Kali Yuga in which we are currently living. Bhagavad Gita is spoken at the beginning of the Kali Yuga or at the end of the previous Yuga called the Dwapar Yuga. You can say Kali Yuga begins just after Bhagavad Gita was spoken. So Bhagavad Gita was spoken keeping Kali Yuga in mind. And that is why the Bhagavad Gita also concludes in showing us that Bhakti Yoga is the highest form of yoga. And the yoga that we can easily do, we can possibly do, and easily also do, and recommends that for us. Bhagavan recommends that for us. So, with this, I will stop for today, and I look forward to your questions, comments, etc. I'll unmute you first, and then you can ask your questions. Once again, I hope that my audio was clear to all of you. I put you on mute, and I don't know because you can't tell me. If you could not hear me in between, you have no way of telling me because you're on mute. Yes, now I unmuted you. You can please ask me your questions. So here I have a beautiful copy of Bhagavad Gita. This I got from Udupi. This has only the Sanskrit shlokas, and this is given by the Puttige Math of Udupi, one of the 8 mathas that Madhvacharya's Sampradaya established. After Madhvacharya, these 8 mathas were established, and one of them is called Puttige Matha, and they have this Gita Lekana Yajna. Koti Gita Lekana Yajna means that they want people to write out the Bhagavad Gita in their with their own hand, manually handwrite the whole Bhagavad Gita in Sanskrit. So they've given the all the Sanskrit shlokas here, and they give a book also, a notebook, or if you can buy a notebook outside and write in that book if you don't have their book, and then you can send it to them, and they have a Gita Mandir in Udupi where all the copies they want 1 crore. Uh, such copies to be produced by people. Some people may write more than once, but whatever, altogether 1 crore. 1 crore copies. So it's called Koti Gita Lekana Yajna. It's going on for a few years now. People are buying this copy from them and writing and giving to them. And I bought a few copies from there when I went to Udupi a few months back. And if you want to start doing this too, then I would encourage you to do it. It's a good way to do meditation on Bhagavad Gita and the message of Bhagavad Gita. Yes, Puneet, you have unmuted yourself. You have a question?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, we are pushed and we were being taught to do Karma Yoga by the Shri Bhagavan. And the other side, we know that the all the Srishti is run by the Lord.
Yeah,
And he is the one who is actually have behind every action of
yeah.
the Prakriti,
Mm.
including ourselves or doing like we are doing PhD or somebody is doing doctor or professor something. Every action is governed by the Lord only.
Yeah.
So where these two things intersection, if everything is done by the God, so then what is the point of doing our karma?
No, when we say everything is being done by Sri Bhagavan and his Prakriti, what we mean is they don't decide what we should do.
Okay.
The mechanism is taken care of by them. The decision to do a particular thing or to not do it is our decision, the free will. This does not go against free will. Free will is very much a part of the Atma. All of us have free will. Of course, the extent of free will, the extent to which we can enact our free will depends on our past karma. Means somebody who has, let's say, a lot of punya, who has done a lot of good in the past. So it is merit based. Somebody who has done a lot of punya will have more free will. Means they will have more ability to do things that they want to do. Somebody who has done a lot of papa in the past, right? Who is a papa karmi. Now, in the present life, if they are experiencing their papa, their free will is less, but still it is there. Okay, they may have a lot of desire. I want to do this, I want to do that, but the ability to do that will be very limited. The provision for that will be very limited for them. Now, when we say Bhagavan and his Prakriti are the ones who are actually doing all the action, it means the mechanism for doing it is by them. When we develop the desire to do something, even something as elementary as, say, lifting my hand. Okay, now I have lifted my hand. Now, this action of lifting my hand begins with the subconscious desire in my mind. I may not be conscious of it, it's implicitly there that I should lift my hand. That desire comes from me. And because my free will and my past karma give me the provision to experience that lifting of the hand, I can lift my hand. The hand gets lifted. But the actual mechanism which is lifting the hand is not me. It's not me who is lifting it. It is that arrangement of Bhagavan and the Prakriti and so on. All the other five. We'll talk about the five factors of action. Those five factors of action are the mechanisms combined. When they coming together, the mechanisms through which the hand gets lifted. And similarly, you can extend this to any other action. I gave the example of hand lifting. You can think of any other action, action of speaking, whatever action happens, all happens through him.
And what about the events? Like suppose eruption of volcano or the
Yeah,
two countries are fighting with each other, the decision of the battle or in the history of the past or future outcomes or these events.
yeah. So things like volcanoes or earthquakes or whatever, floods or any other good outcomes, like a good rainfall. That, for example, today we had a nice rainfall in Jamshedpur here, very pleasant. Everything, all that is decided by a natural, set of actions that's a function of our karma, karma of society as a whole, and by the natural program by which this universe runs, like sunrise, sunset. So many natural phenomena happens, which comes under the larger responsibility of Prakriti. Prakriti decides that, and there is a larger program which runs in place. So that takes care of all those things. What was your other part of your question?
So what try to be the we say neatly
Countries fighting. Let's say Israel and Israel and the Hamas are fighting with each other, or Ukraine and Russia are fighting. Those people are deciding to fight with each other. Now, that fight is not created by Bhagwan. Again, there the free will of those human beings is involved. Those human beings, like the Hamas, for example, are exercising their free will to go and attack the Israelis. The Israelis, in turn, the leaders of Israel, like Benjamin Netanyahu, are using their free will to decide that now I'm going to bomb the Hamas. So entire Palestine is destroyed. So this is an outcome of their free will, right? There's free will involved in that. Where human
and
beings are there too. The earthquake is not decided by the human being, obviously, right? Human beings don't say, let me now create an earthquake. They may wish for an earthquake, but they're not creating it, right?
so my question is like suppose in the fight one side wins and that the winning of the side is decided by the god or it is by the free will of the people who are fighting
So eventually, it's an outcome of the punya and papa karma at the larger level.
at the societal level.
Yeah, yeah, at the societal level. So society has sometimes, you know, somebody who doesn't have a papa karma, of course, it never happens. Actually, the punya and papa that we experience ultimately is an outcome of all the actions we have done in the past, including the actions in this lifetime. That is the one that determines. So if society, people in a particular society are experiencing certain kind of happiness, like we see, and we also see people experiencing certain types of suffering in some other societies, it's all a result of their punya and papa according to the Indian knowledge system. And that punya and papa is changed, it's alterable. That also we should know. So when we do yoga, the whole Bhagavad Gita is about yoga, right? Like, for example, doing work without attachment, without craving for the fruit of the work, doing work as responsibility, like we discussed today. That is a part of yoga. Now that destroys our past karma. When we do tapasya, tapasya is done, sattvika tapasya. When sattvika tapasya is done, it destroys our papa karma. The papa that we have to experience gets altered. It's no longer same. Either it gets removed completely or it becomes much softer. We may get, for example, if the papa karma ordains that somebody should lose their entire hand, okay, because of that. They did something with their hand in the past life. They may have gone and hurt somebody. So the papa karma may be that in this life they should lose a hand. They should have an accident and the hand will go away. Now, if by somebody has done tapasya before that, even if they did not know that they are doing tapasya to protect their hand, they still did tapasya as a matter of dharma, because Bhagavad Gita says one should do tapasya and elevate oneself. If somebody did that, then they may still get some of that papa karma, but it may be much milder. Instead of the whole hand going away, they may just get a scratch. They may get a wound on the hand, okay, while doing something, but the hand is safe. So they may have a small accident in which the hand becomes injured, and then after some time, the hand is all right and they live their life. So, therefore, karma does not mean that we are programmed, we are completely programmed. It only means that, just like in modern law, okay, all countries run by some law, they all have some form of law, right? Now, what does law do? Law gives you reward and punishment, right? Now, reward and punishment doesn't mean that the law is taking away the person's free will or existence. Law only means that they are given some reward and punishment. So the karma, punya and papa karma only mean that much. They don't alter your free will and they don't also program you. Law doesn't program us, law only governs us. Similarly, punya and papa are governance mechanisms. They are not controlling or programming mechanisms. They don't program us to behave in certain ways. Is that clear, Puneet?
Right.
Yeah.
Just have one more doubt, a small doubt, sir.
Yeah.
We Indians are so much into this self knowing and this power on the path of japa and all these things. But still, we have gone through some most kind of draconian atrocities in the past. But not the other countries. We have seen so many things. So this is the must be our karma which we are facing or our ancestors have faced.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we are going through draconian experiences now, it is definitely a result of the karma that we have done in the past. It's not even because of somebody else's karma. Somebody did something wrong, so that's why I'm suffering now. That's also not okay. I am suffering now only because of something wrong I did in the past. That is something that is emphatically told in the Indian knowledge system. So each of us is accountable for our actions. So if we want to have a pleasant existence in the future, then we better be responsible and ensure that we do only proper things in this lifetime. We don't do anything wrong.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Namaskaram, sir. Nakshit here.
Yes, Namaskaram, Nachi. Please tell me.
Sir, I hope my audio is clear. I'm on the road actually. I hope the audio is clear.
Yeah, it's clear. Please go ahead.
Okay, sir. So the question I wanted to ask was you were mentioning about the different types of tapasya that we do. And the thing that is most attainable is sattvic tapasya. So I also do some kind of japa in the morning and I chant some slokas and all that. So, like this one instance, even in my MBA last year, I used to like during the sunset for winters, I found it difficult to like take bath and do my japa. So what I do is I just wrap myself in the blanket. Sometimes I don't even sit on the floor. So the situations are so overwhelming. Like if I have to do this very fast concept analysis of either missing out on the japa or to just do the japa like with a little bit of compromise, then I choose the other one because I don't want to lose the discipline of doing it every day. And some other instances where sometimes I don't take bath and I do because I have to leave for the work or whatever it is earlier. So I have to do some compromises. But those compromises are not because of my choice, but because of the situation calling for. But of course, I can wake up earlier. but there's also this consideration of lacking sleep and fatigue sleep also. So in those cases, what kind of a compromise would be there, sir? Because will that be considered as a lesser austerity than doing it with let's do all the shastric rules?
Shastra has different types of processes, different types of paddhatis for different types of processes. Now, japa yoga or japa yajna, depending on the paddhati or the particular system that you are following. For example, now let me talk about the system that I am aligned to, which is bhakti. Now, in the path of bhakti, japa has no rules of this type, binding rules of this type, like taking a bath before doing japa, or a particular time of the day at which japa should be done, otherwise it will not bear its fruit, etc. These kind of rules are associated with certain other types of yajnas, certain types of puja, yajna, etc. For example, if you are having, if you are worshipping a deity in a temple, okay, let's say in a temple there is a deity vigraha, and that vigraha puja happens, and you are the priest of that temple. Your responsibility is to ensure that worship happens. Now, for Vigraha Seva, it is absolutely mandatory to take bath before going inside the sanctum and keeping one's body clean, because taking bath with water not only cleans the body, it also calms the mind. It also makes the mind very peaceful. So when one goes for Vigraha Seva, then one goes with a very calm mind, with pure thoughts, without any thoughts of anger, envy, etc. But when you do japa, when you start doing japa, then taking a bath, or let's say even particular time of the day, like in Vigraha Puja, there is time of the day also, but here that also is not there. So many of these rules don't exist. The only thing that is done for japa is being offensive. That should be avoided. An offensive mentality, offense in the mind, or offense in action towards others, uh, blaspheming others, condemning others, being cruel to others, cheating others. This kind of mentality should be avoided. If such a mentality is kept, with such a mentality, one does japa, thinking that I can do japa, then whatever wrong I have done, that will get erased. No, that becomes very offensive, and the japa then actually not only becomes, it not only does not give its fruit, but it also creates a negative reaction on us, and it gives us more harm than good. So one should not do that. So don't worry if you're not able to take a bath early in the morning, when you in a winter, on a winter day, but for doing japa. All you need to do is ensure that you are able to do japa in a clean place. I'm sure that wherever you are staying, your room is kept clean. Keep it clean. Sit on a clean mat or something, or if it's necessary, on your own bed, which is clean. After you get up, make your bed very clean. Like we say, making the bed, make the bed properly, and then sit calmly, and then do japa. That's perfectly fine. Make sure you washed your hand at least before doing japa. So the beads that you touch are touched with a clean hand. That's okay for japa.
Okay, good. Thank you so much for that. Actually, I wanted to tell this also comment which is asking a question. I hope that was not missed.
Yeah, yeah. You are audible, but you wanted to ask something more.
No, sir, no, sir. I just wanted to tell that there is a comment in the chat which is asking a question. I just don't want to finish that.
Okay, there was a comment. Okay, Debarchita has asked a question. You mentioned Prakriti. I wanted to ask whether Prakriti and Purusha are understood differently in the Gita from the concepts in the Sankhya school. Well, I don't know exactly how it is described in the Sankhya school, but in the Gita, yes, Prakriti and Purusha are very distinct, very, very distinct concepts. Purusha is the source or the origin of everything. For example, in the 15th chapter, Purusha is mentioned in several places. One of the places where Purusha is described is in the 15th chapter, where Purusha is described as the origin of everything in existence, including Prakriti. Prakriti is subservient to Purusha, is one of his energies. One of the multiple energies of Purusha is Prakriti. That's the understanding of Purusha and Prakriti in the Vedanta. So Bhagavad Gita represents the Vedantic school of thought. Sankhya is an alternative school. which has some resemblance to Vedanta, but it's a distinct school by itself, and I am not very clear on the distinction between Purusha and Prakriti. If somebody else knows in this group, they can elaborate. Anyone? Sarthak, you want to say something about that? I know that you're interested in Vedanta and Sankhya also.
Pranam sir, am I
Yes.
audible?
Yes.
So far, what I've heard from a few talks, I have not studied in them, but maybe small short videos from the Ramakrishna mission. So they are an Advaitic school. So the Sankhya school is fundamental to the mechanics of Advaita Vedanta, as in Advaita Vedanta borrows
Yeah.
things from the Sankhya Karika. So their
Yes.
analysis of the nature, that is Purusha and Prakriti. So the three gunas of Prakriti, Sattva, Tamas, yes, they borrow from there. Now, Sankhya concludes where they say that there is this Purusha which, uh, when associated with Prakriti, forgets about its own identity. So again, here the problem is about ignorance, and now since the Purusha is associated with Prakriti, begins thinking that now I am the Prakriti, and then out of this ignorance suffers or experiences. So now our endeavor must be to realize that okay, we are the Purusha and not the Prakriti. So the example that they give is there is a prism which is kept, and if there is an object which is kept, say there is a red apple or a red sheet which is kept close to the prism, so you will feel that the prism is of the color red. However, the prism itself is colorless. So that is the Sankhya philosophy, and they stop over there. They say that okay, you are the pure consciousness, and this is the world, and now you are uh, mistakenly associating yourself to be this material body. This is where they stop. Now, Advaita Vedanta, it goes a step further. It says that it is the consciousness alone which also appears as Prakriti. So there is no distinction between Purusha and Prakriti per se, as you said. Purusha is the source of Prakriti. So Vedanta goes one step ahead and removes this distinction from Purusha and Prakriti. So that's what I have heard of.
Vedanta does not remove the distinction, right? Vedanta only says that we may falsely assume that we are Prakriti because of
Mhm.
Maya, the influence of Maya. We assume that we are that Prakriti, whereas we are not. The distinction between Purusha and Prakriti is very much there, and success is realizing that distinction. Success is to realize that we are different from Prakriti.
Yes, so sir,
That distinction
that is
is, like
what.
you said now, that distinction then exists in Sankhya too. Sankhya also
Mhm.
acknowledges that distinction, and Vedanta picks up from there, Advaita particularly.
So, sir, when they say the distinction at the ultimate level, as in there is nothing separate from consciousness itself or existence itself. So, in the realm of existence, things appear. So, the Prakriti or the Mula Prakriti is derived from Purusha itself. So, there
Ah,
are no two separate realities as in Purusha and Prakriti.
Prakriti.
That is
So,
the claim.
so Vedanta says that Purusha is the source of Prakriti. So, in that
Mhm.
sense, Prakriti is included in the Purusha.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yes, but Prakriti has a different nature from that of the Purusha. Purusha is the Atma,
Ah,
right? Is Brahma,
yes, 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 yes.
and the Jivatma is also Brahma.
Right, right.
So there is distinction in the natures of Purusha and Prakriti, though Prakriti is got its Adhikarana as the Purusha, is based on the Purusha. Prakriti is
Yes,
not independent of Purusha. It doesn't have Swatantrata.
correct, correct, correct.
It has Adhinata. It is Swadhin. It is Purushadhin. It is
Yes.
it's based on the Purusha, right?
So, for example, if I have a log of wood,
Yeah.
so the burning power or the burning of the wood is not separate from the wood itself.
Hmm.
So, if I take away the wood, there cannot be any burning.
Right.
But wood can remain without the burning. So,
Right.
this the flames or this fire or the burning power is has always been there in the wood, but it manifests sometimes. So these flames are like Prakriti, but ultimately it is the wood which is the reality. There is no separate reality as such that fire is completely separate
Right.
from the wood. So
Right. Right.
that is the Vedantic claim.
Nice.
As you were saying.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you. Good. That's good.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Debarchita, I have a clearer picture now. Thank you. Good. That's good.
Hello, sir. Namaskaram again.
Yes, Nachi, please.
Sir, this is regarding the point on Sikshastakam, or the book that you had written.
Yeah.
So I wanted my mother also to read it, and she also read it. And she was hinting at the possibility that this book was with the thought of bhakti being more than mukti. That one, she was mentioning that because in Advaita Vedanta, mukti is the highest realization, right, sir?
Yes.
The attainment of, mukti.
Yes.
But here, she was saying that is it somehow linked with the possibility that this is a Dvaita Vedanta? I don't know what the exact term is, but something that is not Advaita. Is it Dvaita Vedanta, sir, in any way, or is it something that is more related to Advaita, but it's just showing as though it's Dvaita? Can you add some points on that?
Well, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's school on which that Sikshashtakam is based is actually, it combines elements from Dvaita and Advaita, where Dvaita is the basis. Advaitattva comes on the basis of Dvaita. That is, the Bheda between the Jivatma and the Purusha or the Paramatma is Nitya. The Jivatma and Paramatma are always distinct entities. And there is also a similarity between them. There is Abheda. So it's called Achintya Bheda Bheda. So it's not the Dvaita school of Madhvacharya. It is the Achintya Bheda Bheda school of, you can say, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or you can say Baladev Vidyabhushana or Jiva Goswami, all the philosophers in the Achintya Bheda Bheda school. So the book that I wrote is based on that. And yes, Advaita school does not accept bhakti, or does not, you can say it accepts bhakti, of course, but it does not have the same understanding of bhakti as the other schools, particularly Achintya Bheda Bheda schools, bhakti. Chaitanya's bhakti understanding of bhakti is radically different from the Advaita school's understanding of bhakti. So, why does it say that bhakti is a superior state of existence than mukti? It's very simple. I'll give you an analogy. What is mukti? Mukti is basically freedom from samsara. Samsara is like a prison. The analogy of a prison is given. Okay, if somebody is living in a prison because of some wrong things they have done in the past, then after completing their term in the prison, they come out of the prison, right? So when they come out of the prison, there is freedom, and then the freedom entitles them or allows them to do many more activities than they could do when they were in the prison. They can exercise their rights in a much bigger way than in the prison. In the prison, their rights are very much restricted. So that is called mukti. Mukti means becoming free, and definitely, just like in the analogy of the prison, there is so much happiness for a prisoner when he comes out of prison, right? He experiences so much happiness. So therefore, when somebody gets mukti, spiritual realization, atmagnan, they experience happiness because they realize that I'm far superior to what I thought I was. My conception of the self is now redefined, and I can see my superior nature. And that gives so much happiness. It gives them freedom from all the cravings that they had, and they experience that inner bliss. So no doubt mukti is produces so much happiness. Now bhakti, just think of the same prisoner analogy again. When the person comes out of prison at that point of time, he doesn't know anybody because all the people that he knew earlier, now they have disconnected from him. He became a prisoner, and so they don't want to keep their friendships. All those friendships have gone. So after coming out, he begins a new life, and in that life, he develops new friendships. He develops relationships. He finds a partner for himself. He gets good friends, and he gets a job. He develops new relationships in the job also. So now think of the happiness that he has after developing those relationships. That happiness is even superior to the happiness of just coming out of the prison. Coming out of the prison, no doubt, is more happiness than being in the prison. But after getting new relationships, developing new relationships with people, there is even more happiness. his life becomes far more enriched with those relationships, isn't it? In fact, even modern research on happiness, there's so much positive psychology being spoken about in modern research. And what does it say? It points to relationships in society, good, healthy relationships, good, non toxic, positive relationships as a source of happiness. And they say, many positive psychologists, scholars, they write that it's actually these relationships that give the best form of happiness, modern happiness. I'm not talking about Vedic happiness. So, this happiness is also based on relationships. Relationships give far superior happiness than just being free from suffering, right? So, bhakti is that. Bhakti is about relationship based on our relationship with Bhagavan. Our most fundamental relationship is with Bhagavan himself, and realizing that, developing that love with him, pure love, is the basis of that happiness. Therefore, bhakti gives us a superior state of existence. It gives us that state of existence which merely mukti cannot give. Okay, so now are you able to understand why bhakti is said to be superior to mukti, particularly in the Chaitanya group?
Yes, sir. That was very beautiful. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah,
Very clear, man.
yeah. And that's how the Chaitanya school also distinguishes itself from the other schools of bhakti, like the Ramanuja school or the Madhva school, where the understanding of bhakti is also similar to this, but not as developed as this. There, bhakti is seen as a mechanism for mukti. It is seen that only by doing bhakti you can get mukti actually, right? That also comes out in the Gita in some places. For mukti, it's not merely becoming free from the craving for the fruits of the activities, but even doing bhakti is required for getting mukti. But the Chaitanya school doesn't look at bhakti like that. It sees bhakti as a eternal state of existence, not merely as a mechanism for for mukti. In fact, it condemns looking at bhakti like that. It says pursuing bhakti as a means of mukti is not the goal, is not correct. It says pursuing bhakti as the means for bhakti itself. Bhakti is both the means and the end. That is how bhakti should be seen. And then you understand what bhakti really means. And that's when it gives you the real sweetness. The real sweetness of bhakti, the sweetness of existence comes only when you understand bhakti in that manner. Do you follow? And that's what I've tried to explain in that book. Yeah, Sarthak, you raised your hand.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to share an observation.
Yeah.
This comes out of the question that was asked. So there was a fundamental axiom over here that the Advaitins don't look at bhakti as one of the ultimate things, right? So, or maybe say to put it more generally, there is also a view that the Advaitins may think of bhakti as derogatory. So, I just one observation. So, even though the classical school of Advaita, which Sri Shankar, Adi Shankaracharya propounded, so even there, one of his famous verses, as you have also earlier thought about, Bhaja Govindam. So there he says, कि Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mood Mate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrum Kare. So here he is talking about bhakti as a means towards mukti. But again, he is asking all of us to surrender to Shri Bhagwan if we are to get to mukti. So that was one. And sir, also there are modern or say post Shankara Advaitic scholars who then, uh, even though their understanding is based in Advaita, but they also accord superior respect to Bhakti. So in one of the Advaitic texts, so again this I am quoting from a video that I saw from Isaro Priyananda ji. So there he states that in one Advaitic text, Sri Hanumanji says that I know that Srinath is the same as Janaki Nath, and in the ultimate sense, I am also him. In the ultimate sense, I am also him. But what matters to me, or my beloved, or the everything, my whole universe is the lotus-eyed Sri Ram to me. So again, he calls out very strongly to bhakti.
So in the Advaita
there
school,
is also,
there is a stream in Advaitis, like I told you, Sridhara Swami, Madhusudan Saraswati. These are prominent scholars in that line who gave importance to bhakti more than the other Advaitis did.
right,
So they saw bhakti distinctly from just as a mechanism for mukti. They saw bhakti as a state of existence even when they realized themselves as that Purusha.
yes,
So,
yes, yes.
so in their philosophy, they are that one Purusha. They become one with that, but still bhakti exists. Although it's not fully clear to me how that bhakti will actually operationalize, because if you think you are that person, that object of that bhakti is not separate from you, is not a different person, then how will that bhakti actually be operationalized? It's not very clear. I don't know if it's clear to you, but
In,
it's not clear to
in
me
the
as a.
ultimate sense, sir. In the ultimate, so theoretically, so what I'm speaking is theoretically. So if theoretically one understands that all of everything is existence itself or consciousness itself. In that consciousness, what we see is manifesting.
Yeah,
So there is one level of reality which is the ultimate reality where you are consciousness itself and there is no other, there is only one consciousness.
yeah.
And in that consciousness, there is a manifestation of diversity. For example, in our dreams, our mind itself culminates into all the diversity that we see in our dreams.
No, that is fine.
So,
So that aspect of Advaita is fine. Even Achintya Bheda accepts a oneness in
yes, yes.
consciousness. But the oneness in identity, or lack of distinctiveness in identity, ontological distinctiveness. This is where
So,
Advaita and Achintya Bheda clash. Means
hmm,
Advaita, in my understanding, says that there is no ontological distinctiveness eternally. If that is the case,
correct, correct.
then how will bhakti really happen? Because for bhakti, you need to have two. You need to have sevaka
Hmm,
and sevya. The
yes,
sevaka
yes.
and sevya have to be distinct from each other. The sevaka and sevya cannot be the same entity, right? Otherwise, it will become like the sevaka is serving himself, doing seva to himself, right? It becomes a little,
So,
difficult to understand. What does it mean, doing seva to oneself? Seva, by definition, is seva to somebody else. There's another person required as an object of the seva, right?
So, in my understanding, this seva or this duality is in the practical reality, not in the ultimate reality. In the Vyavaharik Satta or the Vyavaharik Satya, there is Ishvara, there is Bhagwan, and there is a Bhakta. So, when that Shuddha Chetana, as in Brahman, manifests itself as Sri Bhagwan or Sri Krishna is appearing. So, in complete glory, it is Sri Bhagwan and under the power of Maya. So, with Maya, he is Mayapati, and under the power, we are Jivas. So, this gives a sense there is a duality created in the practical reality because essentially both are Brahman and then there is a Bhakti possible. So, this is my understanding.
Yes, and so since practical reality is because of Maya, right? What we call practical
Hmm.
reality, that experience is just a product of Maya. That's what Advaita
Correct.
also says. Therefore, this distinctiveness is nothing but a kalpana of Maya, right? And it ultimately boils down to
In
that.
one way, in one way, it is. I mean,
It
sir,
doesn't
in that
exist, right?
sense, it
Once
is not
that Maya
separate.
is removed, there is
Hmm.
no longer distinctiveness. There is a realization that I am Krishna, I am Rama. That same Krishna, Rama, whatever it is called, is just me only. So that is where
In the
bhakti,
ultimate sense.
yeah, in the ultimate sense, yes. So which means in the ultimate sense, what is called bhakti in Advaita is not what the Achintya Bheda call as bhakti.
Hmm.
Because in their ultimate sense, the distinctiveness remains. Although there is oneness in consciousness, there is distinctiveness of identity. There is oneness in bhav,
Sir, I think even the
ekata.
Achintya Vedaveda school, as you have talked about earlier, so the Jivatmas at the Atma, at the level of Atma also, there is a separation between the
Yes,
Jivatmas and the Paramatma.
that is the basis.
Hmm.
The bheda between the Jivatma and Paramatma is more fundamental than the Abheda. Abheda builds on the Bheda. Abheda
Hmm.
is takes the ashraya of the Bheda.
Hmm.
हि-
Right, sir. Right. So
हिंदी
this is
में
not present in Advaita. Yes.
अभेद भेद के आधार पर होता है,
Correct. Correct.
not the other way around. Not
Hmm.
bheda In the Advaita, it seems to be the opposite, because under the influence of Maya, Abheda becomes Veda. Whereas
Yes, sir.
yeah, in Achintya Bheda Bheda, it's the other way. It's like Bheda always exists. It's not a function of Maya. It's not because of Maya. Rather, Abheda is realized once we become free from Maya.
Whatever it is, matlab it, be it Advaita or Achintya Bheda, my point was that everyone gives significant importance to bhakti because it leads to bliss.
Absolutely. And everything is based on the Veda. Ultimately, that's Veda Pramanyam is there for all of them. Veda is the pramana for everything. Good. We
Thank you for
enjoyed,
sharing,
we
sir.
had a good discussion today. I
Thank
presume
you,
there
sir.
are no further questions for today. It's 8 o'clock now. Does anybody have anything to ask or say? Or we can close. Okay. So with this, I will conclude today's class. We will do the Antya Mangalam, and please join me when I chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Om स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यो शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे धन्यवाद. We meet again next Sunday.